Nancy Guthrie, mother of morning show host and Olympic commentator and interviewer Savannah Guthrie, who I had not remembered had worked at Court TV. But as I see everybody covering this case, they keep talking about working with Savannah Guthrie at Court TV. Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy Guthrie, is 84 years old, went missing from her home. One of the big updates is to how that was reported and how it was discovered that she was missing. Because the timeline is that she went missing in the very early morning hours of Sunday, February 1st. It is now February 10th. That in itself is concerning. It has been quite a long time. We saw multiple press conferences from the Pima County Sheriff's Office early in this case. And then the last thing on the Pima County Sheriff's updates today are the bees were contained, which I understand. You can't just be out and about if the bees are swarming. However, there have been no other updates other than the bees have been contained. The other updates we have from yesterday evening, which I posted about in the Lawnard Lounge, were essentially there are no press briefings scheduled at this time. And then they also released that investigators have not identified any suspects. That information is changing this morning. We will talk about it in a few. Investigators have not identified any suspects, person of interest, or vehicles connected to Nancy Guthrie. Okay. We know that Monday, based on the purported ransom notes, and again, it's hard to know the authenticity of those because they have not or did not send any proof of life. There was a deadline Monday evening at 5 p.m., I think local time Mountain. And as that deadline was nearing, we saw that Savannah Guthrie released an additional video on Instagram. So we're going to take a look at that updated video, and then we are going to move into news as it breaks. We are being told there is to be news released. It has not been released yet. So as we got near this deadline, we saw an additional video from Savannah Guthrie that does not, in my mind, talk about or acknowledge any ransom note at all. It is a different tone of video. It is a different request of video, and it is asking the public for help. We have listed the helpline down below. The 1-800-CALL-FBI is the tip line. I did not indicate the local tip line. I imagine that the FBI has more resources to sort through and find tips that are useful and tips that are not at all useful. And they are able to weed that out better. You can also call local law enforcement if you are local in the area. So we're going to take a look at that video that Savannah Guthrie released and go from there. This is from yesterday, late in the afternoon on Savannah Guthrie's Instagram, which is, again, her talking directly to the camera with updated requests for help from the public.
Hi there, everybody. I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock, trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
That is the entirety of the video yesterday afternoon, Monday, February 9th, from Savannah Guthrie. I do not doubt when she said that they are in an hour of desperation, that that's exactly how the family feels. We also saw updates late on Monday from the FBI saying that they had been working tirelessly and were pursuing new leads. Local law enforcement said that they were working tirelessly and pursuing new leads. We also saw information being reported today that those that worked around the Nancy Guthrie residence and the property were submitting their DNA. So there were more DNA tests being taken. Then we got updates late in the day yesterday that talked about how this was all reported and how anyone knew that Nancy Guthrie was missing. It was something that I talked about on the podcast. It was something that was one of those notes that was not sitting well with me because there was quite a lot of conversation that she was expected at church. You guys know where I'm going with this. She was expected at church and they had not seen her at church, and then somebody reported it. But then there was also a lot of communication to the media that she had not been attending church in person. Makes perfect sense. Had not been attending church in person. However, it was also being reported that local churches in Tucson were not hosting live streams that were on Zoom or Facebook, or hosting live streams in a way that had chat information. So for me, it sat very weird that a live stream would be able to tell who was logging on if there was no function for them to log on. And it just never sat well with me. Well, we saw quite a lot of reporting yesterday that we're going to pull up now that actually answers that question. And I don't know if I feel better or if I am more mad that it took so long to get what is a very fucking simple answer. I don't know why this took so long. I don't know why the information put out initially was wrong. So we're going to go to the new news item from late yesterday. That Nancy Guthrie was watching church streamed with friends. Well, that makes a lot more fucking sense, everybody. Could we have started with that? How at the beginning are we starting with information that should be pretty clear? Why did it take 9 days to simply say, no, she was expected at a friend's house and didn't show up at a friend's house? This is information. You don't have to disclose the friend. I don't think you should. But this is the type of information that seems innocuous. And yet the fact that it was wrong is concerning. This is also not an update from law enforcement, so I am going to note with that. Numerous outlets are reporting it. I think all outlets are reporting it from one outlet. I think everybody's just shaking each other's hand and reporting somebody else's reporting. Law enforcement has not confirmed this. A source close to the Guthrie family says key details about how Nancy Guthrie was discovered missing on Sunday, February 1st have been reported incorrectly. How frustrating would that be if you're the friends? To be watching the news and being like, that's not what happened. According to the source, Nancy was not scheduled to attend in-person church service in Tucson that morning, as some reports had suggested. Instead, every Sunday since COVID, Nancy regularly gathered with a small group of friends to watch a New York-based church service via live stream. The group would meet at one of the friends' homes and watch the service live from Savannah Guthrie's church in New York. This makes so much more sense because Nancy would have called. Nancy would have been there. This is unusual behavior for Nancy. So yeah, we're worried. And then Nancy's friend contacted Annie, the local daughter. On February 1st, Nancy did not arrive at her friend's house as expected to watch the live stream. Concerned, the friend contacted Annie, Nancy's daughter, and Savannah Guthrie's sister to report that Nancy had not shown up and could not be reached. The source emphasized that Nancy was expected to be at her friend's home that morning, not a Tucson church, and said the circumstances surrounding her absence have been inaccurately described in some coverage. The inaccuracies in this come from the law enforcement reporting. So how it was discovered that she was missing is that she did not show up at her friend's home to watch a live stream, and then they could not reach her on her phone. How did they not know this immediately? Because someone called law enforcement. I would imagine my mother did not attend church, even if that detail was wrong. Her friend called me. It just got kerfuffled in the way that it was reported, and it's frustrating. We have one other item that came out yesterday before we head to what is breaking today, but we have one other item that was reported by numerous outlets yesterday evening. And I have now seen this from numerous outlets, including Fox News Digital, Local, which is the first place I saw this. Locals delayed cooperation with the feds in Nancy Guthrie probe. Federal agents arrived in Tucson last week to an icy welcome amid a harrowing search for Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, mother of Today co-host Savannah Guthrie. They say she was abducted from her home. Law enforcement said she did not leave willingly. I still call this a disappearance. Either way. She was taken from her home around 2:30 a.m. February 1st. Law enforcement sources described a delay in local cooperation with federal investigators, with days going by before they brought them into the fold. We did not see the FBI communicating in a press conference till the third press conference, which was the last one we have seen till now. The third press conference was, Thursday last week? Before the additional note came out, before the other videos. And that's the first time we really saw the FBI saying anything. The delay in working with the feds in a case where you're going to need to dump all the cell phone towers is surprising to me, because you are dealing with high volume digital evidence. You are dealing with a difficult and vast terrain, and you are dealing with limited resources. Not looping in federal law enforcement is wild to me. So yesterday, the FBI says it had not identified a suspect or person of interest in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. They also said that for more than a week, FBI agents, analysts, and professional staff have worked around the clock to reunite Nancy Guthrie with her family. Additional personnel from FBI field offices nationwide remain deployed to Tucson, where the Bureau is operating a 24-hour command post with crisis management experts, analysts, and investigative teams. The FBI is urging the public to come forward with information. This is their direct quote, "Someone has that one piece of information that can help us bring Nancy home," the spokesperson said. And then any additional information, call 1-800-FBI. So this is what was put out at the end of the day, Monday. Now we jump to today, and they are putting out images of a potential suspect, which is unusual because we heard that there was no footage anywhere. And in hearing that there was no footage anywhere, it is surprising to me that this morning we started seeing media updates that law enforcement was going to be putting out photos. Well, it's not law enforcement. It's the FBI. Pima County Sheriff's has not put out anything. The FBI has. The FBI has been able to recover from the Doorbell. I'm not going to say a brand name because the brand name everybody says I think is incorrect, but has been able to find images from the Doorbell video camera. But Pima County Sheriff's released a statement afterwards. I just wonder if Pima County Sheriff's didn't know. Like, are we in a full Scotty didn't know? I just wonder if there is a massive disconnect on the ground in this case. And it seems like there is a massive disconnect on the ground in this case. The FBI releases surveillance photos of a potential subject. Notice the language, subject, in the Nancy Guthrie case. This is from a doorbell camera. This is a individual dressed in a mask, a zip up, gloves, backpack. One of them is I guess now we know what kind of camera it is. It says it in the corner. The second one is of the suspect with the mask on, holding a flashlight in their mouth. And it looks like they are grabbing that looks like foliage that was on the entryway. and holding it up towards the camera, and then a gloved hand moving towards the camera in 2 pictures. So these are from the FBI. These seem to be a photo of one individual at the front door. However, we have 2 very different stories going on here, with Pima County sheriffs saying there are no press briefings planned at this time. Sheriff Nanos is not conducting one-on-one interviews. If and when a press conference is scheduled, we will notify the media. But then we also have Pima County Sheriff reposting what the FBI said. New images in the search for Nancy Guthrie. Over the last 8 days, the FBI and Pima County Sheriff's Department have been working closely. I have questions about that. Over the last 8 days, the FBI and Pima County Sheriff's Department have been working closely with our private sector partners to continue to recover any images or video footage from Nancy Guthrie's home that may have been lost, corrupted, or inaccessible due to a variety of factors, including the removal of recording devices, which we had heard happened. The video was recovered from residual data located in back-end systems. We had heard at the beginning of this case that because there was no subscription, there was no data. Because there was no subscription, there was nothing recorded. So my question is, was there nothing recorded to the cloud because there was no subscription? Or is everything being recorded and you just can't access it because there's no subscription? Because the device itself was taken. And with the device itself being taken, you can't take this off of the device. I think that even if you don't have the subscription, at least we know that something is being saved. You just can't get to it. I guess that's helpful because now there are images. So this video was recovered from residual data located in backend systems. So directly from the company. Working with our partners, as of this morning, law enforcement has uncovered these previously inaccessible new images showing an armed individual. They say armed. I don't know if in this first picture they say. So the statement goes on to say, working with our partners, as of this morning, law enforcement has uncovered these previously inaccessible new images showing an armed individual appearing to have tampered with the camera at Nancy Guthrie's front door the morning of her disappearance. Anyone with information, please contact the FBI. So it is more new information than we've had in 10 days. It is interesting that this was released by the FBI, and then later the sheriff's department's like, we're not answering any questions, we're not doing anything else. We were told repeatedly, definitively that there was no video. I think it is a reminder that when law enforcement makes statements, it's hard when they make those statements so definitively if they are not aware of all of the potential avenues to recover information. Unless the sheriff was really unaware, I guess, that more could possibly be recovered, it's possible that the sheriff was truly unaware that there was a possibility to recover from the back-end systems of the Nest doorbell. When I talked about that photo having what looked to me like foliage, this looks like foliage from the front stoop. There was debris here that looked like stems, as you can see here, paused, and then we're going to pass the area with blood, but branches or stems up on the front. There is also video here of where the doorbell would have been and was removed. And you can also see in this still image that there are apparent like branches with a little bit of leafing in the front of the stoop. You can see the missing doorbell cam in the front door, which is a like metal screened door. I'm very interested in the leaves and stuff here because none of that was collected, it seems, because this is after they released the crime scene. Let's take a look at the additional release of images. This is similar to the one we previously saw, but there is also video. This is a further away image, which for anyone who's been to Nancy Guthrie's house, they are going to be able, I think this is an important photo for them to be able to get a sense of height and to be able to start to begin an assessment, because they will be able to assess in person how tall that archway is and be able to get a sense of height of the person walking up to the home. And you get a good sense really of aspect on that, because you know where their foot is kind of close to where it transitions from gravel to the entryway to the home. And then we have a video. It looks like the bottom hand is going to the bottom of the camera. The individual looks like they are looking for something. And then grabs foliage. Okay. I wonder if they're looking for something based on their actions to cover the camera while they try to take the camera off, because they're going to need two hands. But whatever's on the front of them looks holstered. So this was video 1, and now we're at video 2. Well, it's much easier to tell that that's foliage. It really does look like they're trying to stick that up there to try to use both hands to remove that camera. I just have to wonder if law enforcement has narrowed down on who they think this subject is when they release this to the public, or if they were releasing this to the public to try to generate additional leads. One more video was just released 2 minutes ago. So using the flashlight to walk up and then head down, walking like flashlight off, head down, walking towards the door. This is where those stills came from, I think, to try to assess height. Since the podcast Monday, we have seen numerous news updates and some additional lingering questions. First, on Monday, we saw the purported deadline that was communicated come and go. TMZ said that they were tracking the Bitcoin wallet information that they had been given and saw no deposits into that Bitcoin wallet. Until I hear it from CoffeeZilla, I don't know. But since those weren't made public, the public can't go track that Bitcoin wallet. But apparently it was a visible Bitcoin wallet number. Then we saw updates from those that were supposed to meet with Nancy Guthrie, because a group met together at a friend's house to watch a live stream of church from New York, the church that Savannah Guthrie attended in New York. And that is why there was reporting that Nancy Guthrie had not watched the live stream of church. It's because she had a group that got together and they watched that live stream in person at a friend's house. So they called Annie Guthrie, and then it went from there. So there's a little bit more clarity around Sunday morning and how it was discovered that Nancy Guthrie did not view church with her friends and was unreachable. And that's when they called her local daughter, Annie Guthrie, which seems to be exactly what your group of friends would do if you don't show up and they can't reach you. That seems exactly what would happen. You would call the daughter that is local in Arizona. Then we saw updates that there were delays between Pima County sheriffs working with the FBI. We saw that reported in numerous spaces, that early in the investigation, we did not have cooperation between the two. And we were taking a look at that as we started to see the FBI releasing recovered video doorbell footage that they say was recovered from residual data located in the backend systems, which indicates to me, because some of these are watermarked with the Nest logo, that there was not a subscription here, so that a user could not on their devices pull information from the cloud. However, it does seem that there was data recorded that the company was able to recover. That's how it reads to me, because we know that the physical doorbell camera was removed from the home. and that law enforcement did not recover it. So they weren't recovering things from the physical device because that was removed from the home. We saw video of they say suspect walking up to the camera, putting a hand over the camera to seemingly try to obscure it. Then you see video of that individual going back to the broader front area of the home, grabbing plant material, putting that up over the camera, and then affixing it to the front. It looks like where it stays. I imagine because you see them trying to pull the camera with one hand while covering it, that they then use the plants to go grab the camera with both hands off the wall while it was still covered. That's what it seems in the order of the videos that we're seeing. So from there is no video recoverable to video that's being released, it's interesting to see. We also saw yesterday where the FBI and Pima County sheriffs said they had no suspects and they were investigating new leads. We also saw on Monday that we covered earlier today, Savannah Guthrie putting out a plea for the public's help. These videos and photos, I'm sure, will bring in a flood of new information to the FBI tip line, 1-800-CALL-FBI, or tips, I think it's tips.fbi.gov. We listed those below. There is going to be more to learn from these. Those who are local are going to be able to look at the archway of the home and get an estimation of height. Again, cameras can distort, but you do see images where the subject of the videos is walking towards the home. They will be able to tell the height of that archway and get a better sense of height of that individual. And I imagine we will see more of that information in the time or the days to come. They also, I think, released the most recent video to be released as of stream. I think part of the reason this was released was to get an assessment of height. Again, easier for those on scene to know how large this archway area is and get a sense for the individual. Also, this archway has some prominence in two areas that go across the archway, like where the archway loops over, and they will be able to assess the person walking by that, even though they're hunched a little bit, and get a much better sense for height and build. So as we start to see people looking at the video, I am interested to see, we don't have a timeline, but if this photo where it seems that somebody is without a backpack, when in time this is, if there's video correlated with it, if this is before or after the other videos, that is something I'm very curious about. And we don't have exact times released yet by the FBI in any of their statements. There are no time stamps, even though there are logos, there are no time stamps on any of these. We are going to see much more discussion about all of this. It is helpful information. It is hopefully going to help the public start to come forward with information if they have any. I was surprised that any video was recovered. I am glad that it was able to be. It took 10 days, but at least it's something. At least it's something. And it's something that might help the public have an idea. And if there is this information, maybe there will be more information to come. But it is the most information we've really seen in this case that can help move the case forward. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss updates on your favorite cases, you're going to need the Law Nerd app at lawnerd.com. That way you can stay in the loop on the cases that matter most to you, and you never know when you're going to catch feelings for a new case. So make sure you get it for free on iOS and Android. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a Law Nerd.